Blue Lock has this interesting concept in the story called impossible goals. Goals so spectacular and beyond the player's talent that such a feat will never be possible again. They could try for their entire careers to replicate it and fail to do so. Many people in the football world know of Messi's scientifically impossible dribble goal in the Copa del Rey finals during 2015. This play was apparently something of an abnormality since it was determined to be scientifically impossible. Blue Lock has goals just like it. But I want to know, what are each of Blue Lock's characters' impossible goals? What goals have the Blue Lockers scored that are nearly 100% impossible to recreate again? Well, that's what this video is all about. What goals from each Blue Locker could we consider irreproducible? Now let's start with the most obvious goal that sparked the idea of this video. Let's talk about Nagi's 5-stage revolver fake volley. The revolver fake volley, in universe at least, is considered to be the goal of the century and one of the best goals of all time. And it's pretty clear as to why it's called this. Outside of the context of Nagi surpassing Isagi, Kaiser, and Gagamaru in a single play, the act of hitting 4 consecutive fake shots, then scoring using an opposite-footed power shot is just incredible. Thanks to entering his flow state with a chemical reaction with Ryo, Nagi is able to fulfill his dream of challenging Isagi, eventually surpassing him with this one-time technique. Now, the confirmation of this goal being impossible to recreate comes from Ego's statement after Yukimiya's failed shot, where he says that Nagi's goal has zero reproducibility to it. However, if I'm being honest, I do think this goal does have the possibility to be replicated, especially with Nagi's newest awakening. When you look at the description Ego uses for Nagi's 5-stage, he's talking about performing a skill beyond your current talent. In that capacity, yes, I do believe that Nagi's 5-stage revolver fake volley is impossible for him to recreate. But what about after the circumstance of Nagi reaching 0 and redeveloping himself? Ever since locking off from Blue Lock, Nagi's experiences and trials have all been about him returning to 0 to understand the depth of what he truly desires and strives for as a player. I think that this circumstance will definitely lead to Nagi being able to produce the 5-stage as a replicable weapon, surpassing even what Ego considers to be impossible, or he'll simply create a skill equal to the talent of his previously impossible goal. But now I'm sure you guys get the gist of what I consider to be an impossible goal by Blue Lock standards. It's not that the goals are impossible, it's that they are the least replicable goals in the Blue Lock series from each specific player. Going into Isagi's goals, our next character, there are not a lot of goals from him that I would consider to be impossible to replicate. But the one that comes to mind given this classification is Isagi's direct back heel shot. When it comes to any of the goals that Isagi has scored or any of the techniques within his arsenal, I think that the direct back heel shot is the least likely to be scored again. I doubt that even current Metavision Isagi would be able to replicate the circumstances at the current level that they're playing at right now. Isagi scored his direct back heel shot against Rin's team in the 4v4 game during the second selection. Isagi created the circumstance to score this goal after discerning Rin's fixation on him during their encounter, finally deducing his mentality after Rin's free kick goal. Thanks to Chigiri's speed, Nagi's decoy, and Barou's presence, Isagi manages to get into a position where he can score a goal without Rin. However, Rin predicts this and moves in to stop Isagi. But just like Isagi predicted, he positioned himself to where a blind spot is created using Rin's talent as the hinge. He then strikes the ball with the back of his heel, surpassing Rin with this brand new technique. But the reason for this goal being impossible kind of coincides with a reasoning for a lot of other goals in this video. I just don't think Isagi will be able to recreate the circumstances ever again. Of course, Isagi's thinking and adaptable skill let him get to this point, but the skill floor is much higher on the current stage of the story, so I don't think that Isagi using his direct back heel shot is really useful anymore. Plus, Isagi now has his twin gun volley, which is way more effective when faking someone out than his entire formula for his direct back heel shot. So yeah, I think that this goal is the least likely to be replicated. Going into Bachira's goals, there aren't any goals that I would consider to be impossible by his standards. However, the best goal I could think of to be impossible would be his Rabona goal in the Team V game. Now, the circumstances that led to Bachira scoring the Rabona goal aren't what I considered this goal to be impossible for. It's the fact that he scored using a Rabona. Bachira was able to single-handedly dribble through Team V, which led to this goal, and as we see with the Nigeria team, Bachira still has the capacity to dribble through entire teams to score goals on his own. However, the chances of Bachira scoring using a Rabona are very unlikely to me. I mean, Bachira's ability to score came from the fact that the goalkeeper back in the first selection was a very low skill and was a striker with no goalkeeping experience. And with the U20 World Cup and beyond, the skill level of these players is going to be way too difficult for Bachira to hit a rabona goal like this ever again. So out of any Bachira goal, this one is by far the most difficult for him to replicate. Going into my favorite character being Chigiri, what goals from him do I consider to be impossible? Well, like Bachira and a lot of other characters in this video, there aren't a lot of goals from him that I don't think he'd be able to recreate. However, the only one that sticks out to me is his opening goal against Team W. Now, exactly like Bachira, we've seen Chigiri use his speed to decimate teams fairly recently, as we saw him blitz Bayern München in the NEL, with Isagi even calling his speed world class. So obviously, it's not the speed blitzing that I find impossible. What gets me though is his style of speed blitzing. Chigiri used to basically just kick the ball really far forward, then chase it with his speed. And as we saw from Nagi, anyone with high predictive skill will be able to read that play and inherently stop it. So in the U20 World Cup, I doubt that Chigiri is going to be able to do this again. Even more so for his finish, I doubt that Chigiri will ever put himself into a position where he is one-on-one with the keeper like this. His experience and skill more lines up with him to hit a 44 Panther snipe, so I doubt he'll let the ball get that close to the goal again. Considering Chigiri's style change and improvements when it comes to his skill, I think that this goal is the least likely to be replicated by him. Going into Kunigami, there is one goal that I think is impossible for him to recreate, but it doesn't make a lot of sense given the scope of the story. That being Kunigami's 40-meter knuckleball in the first selection. And when it comes to this goal, I think calling it impossible to recreate doesn't really make a lot of sense, since I do think that Kunigami could score a knuckleball again. During the first selection, Kunigami scored using a knuckleball technique from over 40 meters out. Despite this technique being used in the first selection, we have never seen Kunigami use this technique ever again, and actually more than ever, I think Kunigami will be able to use this skill again. Kunigami went through the wild card training, and while we don't know the specifics, we know his physical talents and power shooting with both feet increase exponentially. And if first selection Kunigami was able to score a knuckleball from 40 meters out, I can almost guarantee you that Kunigami now would be able to score another one in the current stages of the story. With the possibility of Kunigami converting to a defender being a very popular theory, I still think that assuming Kunigami continues to play on the front line, a goal similar to his knuckleball in the first selection is definitely possible. But with his other possible shots being a header goal or a jumping volley or a lefty power shot, I think that the 40-meter knuckleball is definitely the most impossible. Either way though, I definitely want to see Kunigami score another knuckleball goal, and I don't think I'm the only person who feels this way. Going into BLUELOCK's number 1 being Rain Itoshi, he may be the character that actually gave me the most amount of trouble when thinking up this kind of video. Rain is currently one of the best kickers in the series and always has been, with his main weapon being perfect kicking accuracy. So when it comes to Rain's goals that are unlikely to recreate, it's very hard to pick one. However, the goal that I think could be considered the most impossible would be his half-field goal during the second selection. Now, when you really break it down, Rain's half-field goal was really only considered to be a half-field goal due to the smaller sizes of the pitch. But when it comes to the scope of what this goal really is, it technically was a half-field goal. And let's be honest, I don't think a single character is scoring from half-field ever. Maybe a juiced up Kaiser with the Kaiser impact, but even that feels way too unrealistic, even by the standards of BLUELOCK. I think given this criteria, this is the only goal from Rain that could be considered impossible to recreate, but overall, a lot of Rain's goals seem replicable. You could try to argue his crash shoot goal is impossible to replicate, but since Rain has consistently tried to replicate the goal by crashing into Isagi or Kaiser in the PXG game, it would lead me to believe that Rain can definitely score a goal like this again. So yeah, Rain's half-field goal seems the most impossible to me. Going into the next character for this video being Barou Shoei, there is one goal for him that I'm pretty sure is obvious that it's impossible to replicate. That being his double nutmeg goal against Bayern München. I don't care what you try to tell me, there is no way you can convince me that Barou is able to score the double nutmeg goal again on the world stage. While Nico does say that Bayern München would be on guard for another double nutmeg shot, I feel like Barou creating a circumstance like that again is almost impossible for him. You're telling me that you think Barou could consistently line up the defenders in such a way that he could score while nutmegging both of them on the current world stage? I don't think it's possible. Hell, the only way that this goal was even scoring was if Snuffy moved out of the way. If Snuffy decided to say, nah, screw that, he was getting hit straight in the balls and the goal wasn't happening. I think that these circumstances for Barou creating another double nutmeg shot are so low that even if the story said that it's possible for him to recreate it, I still can't believe it. And really, there's no other goal in Barou's arsenal that lines up to me to say that it's impossible for him to score. Barou's style is still consistently the same, devouring the light of the leading figurehead on the team, and almost every single goal in his arsenal has been scored in this way. So for any goal in Barou's arsenal, the double nutmeg is the most impossible to recreate. Going into our next character being Shido Ryusei, I'm sure you guys know what goal from him is the most unlikely, that being the Big Bang Drive. When it comes to impossible goals, I think that Shido's Big Bang Drive is on the same level as Nagi's 5-stage revolver fake volley. Now you would know if you watched my prediction video for the U20 World Cup that I said I believe that Shido would be able to score another Big Bang Drive. But if that's the case, how does that align with the statement that I'm currently saying right now? Well, that depends on what you define as a Big Bang Drive. Is the Big Bang Drive simply a bicycle kick while in flow, or is it the exact circumstances in which Shido uses technique? Because if it's the former, Shido can 100% do that, but if it's the exact circumstances, I doubt that it's actually happening again. Shido was able to score the Big Bang Drive since the circumstances for the goal being possible were created by Sai, sending a pass to force the goalkeeper out of the box. Now, against Kagamaru, who was an inexperienced goalkeeper, he did the only thing that he thought he could do in that moment, being a headbutt up into the air. But in the U20 World Cup, you'll have smarter goalkeepers and defenders who know how to handle that situation better than Kagamaru did there. And before you mention distance, when you really look at it, Shido's Big Bang Drive was not that far away from the box. While this panel does make it feel that Shido was very far away from the goal, when you scale it against the other panels of Big Bang Drive, Shido really isn't that far, being only just outside of the box when he scored. And when you see the ball go in the net, Audio almost made it back in time to stop it, so a more experienced defender in that situation likely would have been able to stop the Big Bang Drive. Hell, put Sendo back there and he's stopping it. But the basic circumstances of the goal and the chances of him copying the exact goal given those conditions feels very unlikely. Because of that, I consider the Big Bang Drive to be on the same level as the 5-stage. But going into our final character being Michael Kaiser, I'm sure you know what I'm going to be saying here. You probably think I'm going to say the Magnus, but that's actually not what I believe. I think that given the training by Kaiser, along with Ness now experiencing an awakening, that a Magnus impact is definitely replicatable, maybe even with Kaiser being able to score one in the future while the ball is still in motion. However, the goal that I consider the most irreplicable by Kaiser is actually his bounding bicycle kick. When you break the situation down for how Kaiser scored this goal, the chances of him scoring a goal like this ever again are almost impossible. Kaiser was tackled by Audio to where he was in the air while still maintaining possession of the ball, to which in that position, Kaiser strikes the ball with a bicycle kick, not only scoring with a ricochet goal, but also nutmegging Aiku at the same time. While Isagi does call this skill and action a world-class play, I really don't think that Kaiser has a chance of replicating this technique ever again. I mean, Isagi even called Nagi's revolver goal a world-class play, so Isagi may not be the best judge of techniques like that. So all in all, I think that the Magnus, while it does require a very specific condition for it to be effective, the bounding bicycle kick from Kaiser is almost impossible to replicate again. And those were just the goals in Blue Lock that I consider to be impossible. While these goals may not be entirely impossible to the same level as Nagi's 5-stage revolver fake volley, I do think that they are essentially impossible given the current circumstances of the Blue Lock series. But they're also just the least likely to be replicated. But aside from that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. And just a reminder to join my Discord server to get closer to our community. As for the question of the video though, what goal in Blue Lock is your favorite impossible goal? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, I've been Arrow, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.